I'm Rabbi Brian, and this is a spiritual religious experience, aka not a spiritual support group. This is the Saturday service, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. And we're used to doing things a little different. This is the most award-winning, rabbi-led Saturday service 2 years in a row. And you are about to have, if you join me here, a spiritual religious experience, which is really just a combination of the words spiritual, religious, and experience, spiritual religious experience, pushed into one word. This is going to run a bit more like a choose your own adventure meets escape room, because I'm not actually going to be running the service. I am actually in Washington, D.C., running around with my family for spring break. And if things go well, tomorrow I will be seeing Jeff H. That is, as so long as tomorrow is March 20th and today is March 19th, which is weird because it both is and it isn't, as I'm recording this on March 16th, which for you is the past. You're in my future. And then there's another factor of weird, because somebody might be watching this so that my present and your present are both in their past. This is the topic of religion, and things get a little bit slippery from time to time. What's important is that we get present with wherever we are, whenever we are, wherever we are, and hopefully wherever I am in Washington, D.C. at this moment, unless of course you're watching this on record, hopefully I'm present to whatever it is where I am. 2 bits of logistics to how this is going to work. 1, I'm going to ask Alex to handle all of our tech matters as always, and I thank you, Alex, for that. And 2, I'm going to designate Hugh to be the MC to pick the next activities. And each activity has within it designated leader. Now, Hugh did not know until now, when hopefully, Alex, you'll send Hugh the Google Doc. Hugh did not know that he would have this job, and the designated leaders do not yet know who they are. Hopefully, Hugh, you've been able to open that doc, and you can pick what the next scheduled activity is. And I'd just like to remind you to be present and enjoy.
We are, I just got a message. We wish Brian well. We're hoping that he and his family can be mindfully present wherever they happen to be at this moment and whatever they happen to be doing at this moment. So I need to let you know that Brian's plan has changed a little bit from his idea of this service being less structured. There is, in fact, some more structure to today than he's just communicated, and I'm grateful for that. And I suspect the other leaders today are grateful for that as well. So we hope that the service will have some meaningful flow. So a number of folks from the community are providing leadership, and we are so grateful for Brian's trust in us. His trust in us is not lost on us. So I'm going to be the official timekeeper today, and there's a flow to the service, and I may have to cut off the conversation from time to time, because I think it's really important to honor those who have come prepared to help lead, to make sure that they have at least a designated amount of time to share what they have prepared. So I apologize in advance if I need to cut off any really awesome conversation. So today we're going to be thinking about language, among other things. What do we mean what we say? Do we say what we mean? I love the way the Saturday service helps me to think intentionally about things which are really important about life, but which we don't always stop to consider. And communication, the way we use words, the way we interpret the words of another, that's kind of important in helping the world to get along as well as it can. But before we get into that, I'm going to invite Joe to lead us in community care and prayers. Joe.
Thank you, Hugh, and good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning.
Hope you're all doing well. Here are the names, and if there are any you want to add, feel free to just pop them in the chat and I will add them to the list as well on the support network, the Mighty Network. So we have Tula, Rita, Candace, Derek, Alma, Carol W., Joy, Joe, Margaret, Alex, Diane, Amy, Betsy M., Patsy, Frida, April, Greg, Judy, Carol O., Jim, Francis, Addie, Lauren N., Lauren L., Brian, Lincoln, Scott G., all of the people of Ukraine, and the Ukraine-Russian situation. And
Thank
Jeff
you.
Brooks, there was an addition in the chat of Jeff Brooks. Got
Thank
it.
you. Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
Most of the time, for me anyway, the prayers are wordless. Sometimes I use words in prayer and in meditation, but most of the time I don't. Often for me, prayer, getting in touch with the inside of myself, it happens in a language that's too deep for words. So I'm going to invite us to take a good minute. I'll time us, and let's enjoy the space between the words as we hold in our hearts the people who've just been named and the people who are unnamed today, the people and situations in the world which you bring to this gathering now. So let's breathe and reflect for a minute.
Just do an email. Let me see if I, yes.
It is the coffee.
And we honor the thoughts, we honor the feelings that have been evoked, we honor the words, the situations, the people that have come to our minds and hearts in this time. Thank you once again for being here today. People are still joining the group. Welcome to those of you who joined us after this service got started. I am going to invite Jeff to start us off on this idea of language. Jeff?
Good morning, everyone.
Hi, Jeff.
Just to give you a quick update, the rabbi is in Washington, D.C. It is 75 degrees here today, a beautiful spring day, and the cherry blossoms are in full bloom. So he's going to get the full treatment of Washington, D.C. Language. If anyone has a pencil and a piece of paper, I'm going to state a sentence, and then I'm going to ask you some questions. I never said that I stole the money.
Say it again.
I never said that I stole the money. Now, I have said that as if I was teaching English as a second language. But how many ways are there to say that sentence? Shmuley,
Oh,
how many? Say that sentence.
I told you I didn't steal the money.
8 different ways.
At least
Okay,
8.
that's one.
I never said I stole that money.
You never
Yeah,
said
that's
you didn't steal the
two.
money either. But
Shirley?
Well, I was going to say, I think I might, I never said that. I stole
I
the
stole the money.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
what I got.
I
Three,
never
Ah.
said that I stole the money.
4,
I stole the money. I didn't tell you.
I never said that I stole the money.
I never said that though. But doesn't mean it didn't.
Rita,
The money.
The money was not stolen by me. Reverse.
Someone's deconstructing.
I
My
never
thing.
said that I stole the money. Who else?
I don't
remember
stealing the money.
When did I tell you I stole the money?
I never said that I stole the money.
Never said I didn't steal the money.
I
You already said
never
that.
said that I
No.
stole the money.
Lo siento, no habla. I stole the money.
Yes.
Any more?
I got one.
What's happening?
Maria, Jeff, did you hear that? Maria's got one.
Go ahead, Maria.
I never said that I stole the money.
Oh, that's a good one. What? I told you that. I told you
Anyone
that's
else?
I never said I stole the money.
I never did that with that woman.
That's a whole different conversation.
Never. Who said I stole the money?
11,
Said I never that I stole the money.
12. Who else? Anyone else?
I never said that I stole the money.
Yeah, yeah.
I never said that I stole the money.
Go ahead, Nikki.
I never said that I stole the money.
I
Actually,
never
I
said that I stole the money.
Okay, I've got 16 different ways to say that phrase.
good.
So
Maria, I'm going to turn it over to you for
Ta-
some understanding.
take it away, Maria.
All right. So now that we've got at least 16 different ways that we can read that phrase, I never said that I stole the money. Isn't there the possibility that when somebody is saying something to us that we might misinterpret it? We get pretty certain that we know what people really mean, but maybe there's the possibility that we're wrong at times. Maybe we misinterpret them at times. So I have a question for you. Has it ever happened to you that someone was trying to be kind to you, but at first it seemed pretty clear that they were not?
Yes.
See,
Yes?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Have we got examples?
When I went to study at Westminster in Philadelphia, somebody said, "How do you like America?" I said, "For heaven's sakes, I live in America. I've lived in America since I was born.
Yeah.
Not U.S. America, United States of America, but I live in Puerto Rico, which is part of America." Yeah. And we're also part of the United States. So
And did you find out later that they had a different intent behind asking you that?
the person who told me wanted to be nice.
Right.
But to me, it was like, study geography and history, my friend.
Are misinformed or uninformed.
So
It is,
how
it is
certain-
always,
Go ahead, Ray.
it is always amazing to me how many people do not know that Puerto Rico is part of the United States. They think it's a foreign country.
Yeah, well, not that long ago, about what, 10 years ago, I was in this meeting and was from the union, the different unions that were in the VA hospital, in different VA hospitals. And was this guy who was an African American? He said Puerto Rico is not part of the United States. And thank God there was somebody else who answered, because I was going to insult him. But the person who happened to be a lawyer said, "Oh yes, Puerto Rico has been part of the United States since the Spanish-American War." Or when I said, "Well, I served in the U.S. Navy," he said, "What, Puerto Rican Navy?"
Mm.
Like,
Yes, yes.
anyway.
So now we're going to do one of Brian's rating scales, right? In terms of how certain are you that you know what someone really means? So on a scale of hands at the top of the screen for I am certain what they mean, to hands at the hands at the bottom of the scale, I am willing to be wrong about what I thought was certain, was the opposite of what I initially thought. So, all right, I see some in the middle. I see some people with, I don't know. So
You is swimming. You is swimming at all levels.
Yep, I see swimming at all levels.
I'm not voting.
See, for me,
voting.
it depends
No
on who
votes.
it is, you know, and who
Yeah.
you're talking to.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you know, some people that I talk to, they're very clear in their communications, and then other people tend to be a little bit more obtuse, and a lot of times you find yourself guessing, well, did they really mean that or didn't they? So I think a lot of that certainty, at least for me, depends on who it is and how they're communicating with me.
And
Right.
past interactions with them. So if it's somebody who I know tends to try to get digs in, I'm going to read something more negatively. But if it's somebody I know always has the best intentions, even though they might garble their language, I will give them the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
It also can depend on what mood I'm in.
Oh.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes.
If I just spilled my coffee all over everything, I might not listen in a sweet way.
There's a
When I was
comment in-
younger,
Right.
I was very certain I knew the truth.
Yeah.
Now I don't at all. I keep
Love her.
changing.
And I want to throw a wrench in here in terms of,
Oh.
we're talking about verbal communication, but a lot of us, I see your hand up, Shirley, I'll get to you in a sec. But a lot of us spend a lot of time texting or emailing people where all we've got is the words. And so is it easy there to misinterpret?
Yes,
Oh, the
Yes.
tone.
way more in text.
I got you, Shirley, but Shirley had her hand up.
No worries.
And Bob's throwing a wrench. in the
Brian isn't
situation.
available today.
Go ahead, Shirley.
Thank you. What I was thinking is that there are people in my life that I tend to walk on eggshells around because I don't want to insult them, or I think that they don't think highly of me, or vice versa. And when they speak, I can read into what they're saying and not really get what they mean. And I will think I'm being insulted or think the opposite and find out that, my perception can be skewed by the nature of the relationship. And so I wonder how often we're truly honest.
That's a great point,
Go
Shirley.
ahead, Shmuley.
And that we're only talking about spoken language. When it comes to any other kinds of language, for example, physical language, I mean, that's another story. For example, when I was living in the continental US, when I was in school, I had just met this guy who was a Dutch American guy, and he told me something, and I couldn't understand very well. Now, in Puerto Rico, we can ask people verbally, or we can use a sign, which is we do this with our nose. Now, if we feel that the other person doesn't understand what we're saying, we get closer and wrinkle our nose again. And if the person doesn't understand, we get closer and wrinkle our nose again. And I was getting very close to this guy. And this guy just stared at me and said, "Are you a rabbit or something?" Finally, I explained what happened, and we finally communicated. And every time I would see him, I would just wrinkle my nose, and he said, "Grass is over there."
So it kind of went both ways. It went both ways in not understanding what the other person was trying to say. Yeah.
Last year, somebody asked me, do you believe in vaccinations? And as soon as she said the word believe in, I was sort of like,
Yeah, so maybe how important the message is to us also plays a role.
Just a quick comment on text. I try, but my instinct is to text as I think. So people will get like 17 messages from me, and that could be a paragraph. But so I can tell by the responses if I've not been clear, like, oh, wait, hold on. I got 5 more lines, and then, but so I really need to adjust and do in a paragraph form. And the other thing that I've noticed though is that, and anybody that's a member of the clubhouse knows that I'm an emoji kind of lover. So I'll do purple hearts, or so my daughters know that if I text and I don't have like 10 exclamation points and 5 hearts, they already know, oh, mom's not in a good mood. Like, okay.
I think there are things sometimes that we can actually do to help foster more effective communication. And so I'm going to ask if Shirley can help us move down that road a little bit.
Okay, I just took my mute off. Okay, can you imagine saying this? It seems to me like you were chastising me. I wanted to check that out with you to see if that was indeed your intention. I'll repeat that one more time.
Yeah.
It seems to me like you were chastising me. I wanted to check that out with you to see if that was indeed your intention.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that in my life, this would have helped me many, many times if I could have had the wherewithal to honestly say this to somebody I was communicating with, that I wasn't clear about. Are they chastising me? Did I do something wrong, or getting angry? This is that would be quite a phrase to keep in my pocket, and I'm wondering how you all might feel about that.
It's the checking out process.
Yeah, I think it's, I'm going to lower my hand. I am writing that down because I've had an ongoing issue with my oldest daughter, who is disrespectful to me. And I have mentioned many times, hey, I don't like the way you talk to me. And we get in these conversations and it just goes on and on for many years. It never gets fixed. And she talks to me in a disrespectful manner. So I think that statement there, when those events happen, which I will be visiting her soon to see my grandchildren, is essential to get us moving on, because we've gone years and years and years of, I don't like what you're saying. I don't like what you're, or I've got hurt feelings and she doesn't know what she did. So it's an opportunity, and I want to give her the benefit of the doubt that she truly doesn't know that her eye rolling or the way she says things is disrespectful. Partly because I've let it go on for so long, but I honestly feel that she doesn't know that it is rude or disrespectful or whatever. And by saying this statement, I feel that you're chastising me. You got to say it again because I got to commit it to memory. Is the bridge in which we can move from where we are in a uncomfortable space for both of us for many years to a more positive growth in our relationship.
Well,
Yeah.
I will say it one more time if you'd like to write it down or
Yeah.
put it in the chat. I'll put it in the chat when we're through.
Perfect.
But I mean, look at somebody where you don't feel your communication is clear, like somebody is insulting you or chastising or whatever it is that you think may be going on, and say, it seems to me like you were chastising me. I wanted to check that out with you to see if that was indeed your intention. And that would be I really believe this is a wonderful question. And I've found in my life in effective communication to just ask questions, check in with who you're having a conversation with, and just say, did you mean this? I'm not clear. I mean, and just to narrow it that way, it does help.
We've had several hands up. I saw that Virginia's hand was up. I see Eileen's hand up. So Virginia, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was, so I work in the mental health field, and we work with kids mainly, our clients, but we find that there's a lot of communication between parents and kids that get muddled. And so one of the things that I try to do is teach parents how to listen effectively
on Saturday, Friday,
like active listening.
Yeah.
So one of the tactics is to repeat back to make sure, because sometimes these kids say things, yeah, they don't mean what the parents hear at all. So one of the things is, what I heard you say is, and then you paraphrase and kind of check it out. And that has saved a lot of hurt feelings, anger, resentment, just like Shirley said, to ask questions about it, just to make sure you're clear. And, the thing about text, that's why I like to talk instead of text. Man, so much gets miscommunicated.
Mm-hmm. It does. Yeah, very, very.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
I think we have time for one more comment before we move on. So I'm going to invite Eileen, whose hand has also been up, to speak.
Okay, but I think Bob and Rita were up before me.
Oh, were they? I did not know that. So, okay. Well, let's this is an interesting topic. I'm the timekeeper, so I'm willing to give this a couple more minutes. So, Bob, Rita, go ahead, Rita.
Well, years ago when my son was 7 and my husband and I had just separated, we had this automatic argument often when we talked about anything. And I took a class called Parent Effectiveness Training. And active listening was a major part of how to be effective. And it's what you're saying. It's repeat back what you heard. What I'm hearing is yada da. Is that what you're saying? Or however, there are a lot of different ways to phrase it. The other thing, by the way, in parent effective training, which was really rough, was you have to give up authority as a means of control. And we'll talk about that some other time.
Thank you, Rita. Last comment with Bob. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that sometimes we put too much effort into some of the communication stuff. I think that a lot of it depends upon whether or not that it affects me in terms of how somebody is talking to me, and that that I can know in myself where I'm at, and I can make a judgment as to whether I'm going to let that affect my feelings or not. And so I think that everybody has their own way of talking, and so sometimes some of this is maybe important in relationships, and in other times it's just how some people are.
Thank you, Bob. One thing I'd like to make on this before we move on is I find what happens with me, if somebody says something to me and I don't know how to interpret it, the logical part comes second. What happens to me first is I have an emotional response to what's being said, and I get hooked by that emotional response, and I forget to go to the next level, which is to ask Shirley's awesome question. So I need to write that on my hand. Anyway, today's service is a little bit different than it has been. I know Alex has a couple of questions that she'd like to share with us today.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna call on people, and I'm gonna have you answer question. If you don't want to play, it's perfectly okay to say, I pass. I don't want to answer. Okay. So for this first question, I'm going to call on Meg. And so my question to you, Meg, is how uncomfortable are you when the schedule of what you thought was going to happen today isn't what's happening?
Sort of depends what it is. I mean, this is not what I expected today, but that's fine. But if I'm expecting, if I have to do something and it's not when I expected to do it, that gets me upset, you know, or I don't handle that as well as if with this service, I don't have to do anything until you call on me, Alex. And so whatever happens, happens. But if I'm responsible for something and it doesn't happen like I thought it should happen or when I thought it should happen, that's more upsetting. Upsetting is kind of a strong word, but it's discombobulating.
I like that word.
All right, Rags, I have the same question for you. How uncomfortable are you when the schedule of what you thought was going to happen isn't what is happening?
In general, I'm pretty good at going with the flow, unless I'm in charge or, you know, nominally or apparently in charge. And then I'm very uncomfortable. I can be very uncomfortable if I feel like I'm supposed to be making this go right and it's not. Different things are happening, then I can respond less positively. So that's one of the biggest differences. And the other, of course, is like if, I don't know, the appointment with the dentist has to be postponed, I'm not going to be upset. If I was like, I'm finally supposed to get to see my grandson for the first time in 2 years, now that he's turned 3, he turned 1 the last time I saw him at the beginning of the pandemic. If that trip gets canceled, I will not go with the flow. I will be upset because it's something I'm really counting on. So that's the big difference in how I react.
Okay, so now I have one last volunteer, and I'm going to pick actually voluntold person. Eileen, this is not the same question. How does it affect you when something small isn't as you thought it should have been?
I'm pretty open to the now. So
it doesn't usually bother me. I really wanted to answer the other question because I'm taking a class. So I'm paying for the class. And when the teacher starts taking everybody's, I'm paying for the class. I'm paying for your information. I don't really just want back and forth when you told me I should expect this, and this, but small things pretty much go with the flow.
That was interesting, the paying for it. That was interesting, Eileen.
Mm-hmm. But I also think it was interesting that Eileen wanted to answer the first question. So that's kind of that it even makes this sort of an example of what we're talking about, which is, Eileen was all ready to answer the first question that I asked and wanted to answer the first question that I asked. And I think that maybe she was a little bit disappointed that I asked her a slightly different question.
Thank you for that, Alex. Joe, we're going to pass the torch on to you for a few minutes.
Okay, well, I just want to point out that in the chat, there's a question. Can I be honest? I have no idea what we're talking about today. so don't feel alone. I don't know that any of us know that quite yet. And so I'm going to do I'm going to shuffle my papers and transition like Brian does. And I'll say, oh my gosh, look what I have on my piece of paper. And the next topic, I want you to just think about this question a minute, and then I want to ask at least 3 people to respond to it. So I'm going to give you some time, just a teeny bit of time to process the question. Do you believe there are moments that are/were just meant to be? So just let that settle a minute. Do you believe there are moments that are absolutely meant to be?
Absolutely.
Okay, who said absolutely?
I think Alex-
Lisa, all right, you're up, girl. Let's hear it.
Let's see. I'm trying to make a long story short. Let's see here. When we lived in Pittsburgh, we lived in this house, and I lived there for many years, and I became really good friends with the landlord. He was almost like a second father to us, and he passed away the same year that we got married, and our lease ended on the day that we got married.
My goodness.
Of the apartment, and it all just came together. It's a hard story to tell. So it's really hard for me to put it into words. It's like everything converged at a period in time, and it all worked out. And I've seen that many times over my life where time has converged and things have all worked out for the better.
So does that help you prepare for like some of the things we've already talked about, especially what Alex was just talking about, that it's happened before? Does that give you confidence when you see things unraveling currently?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna scan for the second. Does anybody have another example? Where they
changed?
Oh, go
I would
ahead. Yeah,
change-
Emily, go ahead.
I would just add one word. I would change the sentence.
Okay.
To, do you think there are moments that are just meant to be, rather than believe?
Well, tell me more. Why would you change the word from?
There is something about that word believe that carries with it, and I'm not even sure what it is. Maybe somebody else can help.
What do you like?
Religious connotation.
Say that again, Rob.
It's a religious connotation.
Yes.
The word believe, B-E-L-I-E-V-E, is religious?
Yeah.
It's belief.
Yeah, because what I was hearing was, then you're gonna say, well, then who made it happen? And is it God that makes the things? Yeah.
Right.
So I'm totally with Emily on this one.
Oh,
I
that's
think it's
interesting.
much more neutral.
So that's interesting. I wonder if that same, not criticism, but observation would be different if I said that exact same sentence, but it wasn't in the context of what's considered a spiritual religious experience gathering. Like if I just ask you, do you believe in the moon? Like, I don't know that word believe would bother anybody, would it?
Yes, it would.
It doesn't bother us. It's
And,
just,
and you seem very enthusiastic, honey.
Yes, I am.
Okay, bring it on.
I was asked, well, as a scientist, then you must believe in evolution. And I said, no scientist believes in evolution. We accept evolution as the most likely way that species happened on this planet because of the preponderance of evidence. If there is a preponderance of evidence, then we accept this theory as having a lot of validity to it because of the preponderance of evidence, but we don't believe something in science. And because belief has a connotation of faith that something is true without evidence. Thinking, if I think there are moments that are meant to be, yes, I do, because I have quite a bit of evidence in my own life. But believing means without any evidence or with it. So that's that is my way of thinking about the words belief and think.
And I thank you for that, because that was very clear. That was super clarifying. And as you said that, I was like, oh yeah, because belief, the word believe definitely infers like a rooted validity in this is true. The word I think is just a speculation. Great, God, great. Okay, now
Joe.
Yeah,
Joe,
Has his hand up.
Hugh.
let's hear from one question or comment from Ray, and then I'm going to say something after Ray speaks.
Okay, perfect. Ray, go ahead.
Well, this goes to some of our basic stuff. It's what we have been brought up with, how we have been, use a term that a lot of people don't like, way we have been programmed. If we have been brought up to, you have to believe this, you don't have a choice. If you don't believe this or believe the way I believe, you're a bad person, or you're going to hell, or whatever that is for you, then it's a trigger word. It's like, for me, one of my trigger words is, well, there's a couple, but one of them is, well, they're your parents, you have to love them. That's a real trigger word for me. So I think belief is the same way.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you all. This is so stimulating, this conversation today. Awesome. Thank you to everyone for participating. But I'm really excited about one thing, because I understand, Joe, that this Saturday service got a letter in first class mail. And I'm wondering if you could read that letter for us today.
I would be happy to read that letter. It's from pretty high up. This is Penuel, the archangel of the high heavens.
When you said pretty high up, I thought you were going to say Canada.
I'm pretty sure Penuel, maybe Penuel does live, maybe that is the high heavens, Canada. So Penuel has said, "Dear Rabbi and friends, I am so sorry for all that I hear is going on. An unprecedented amount of stress. 2 years of pandemic already? Wow. The plans we are going to leave this and do things differently just collapsed for many reasons. Some seem to have forgotten altogether they made vows to live easier lives. It seems to me like you were just, oops, sorry, that's the wrong page. Oh, I'm sorry. So this is the closing. I'm sorry to hear about the nations of the world flexing and fearing and fighting. It's quite a scary time. Love, Penuel." So as you think about what Penuel had to say to us, what do you think? Well, number one, how does it hit you? Like, is that problematic? Do you think Penuel understands us? Is he trying to help? Why do you think Penuel took the time to write and check in with us today? Yes, Candace.
Well, I don't know why Penuel checked in with us, but if I heard the letter correctly, I'm like, okay, tell us something we don't know.
Yeah. So do you have a response that you would like to give to Penuel?
Well, not that I want sent, but I'm sorry their plans, whatever they were, had to be canceled, and maybe that was the point of the letter. But it might have been helpful to hear a little more about that and a little less about the general state of the world. I mean, I'm thinking, okay, thank you for sharing. Why? And I'm sorry you had to cancel your plans. Is there anything else you'd like us to know?
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought when I read it too. There's a comment in the chat that says, "I'm not sure why the angels are worried, but it's concerning. Are the angels throwing us a bone?" Okay, I see Derek and then Shirley and then Shmuley.
I am lost here. Who is Penuel?
Apparently a friend of Brian's in high places, an archangel.
It's an archangel.
He hasn't been part of this group.
Well,
No
no comment, Derek.
Sorry, no hablo angel.
I'm trying to figure out where this is coming from. That was the question. So.
Oh, well, that's fair. To be honest, we're just following sort of a little topic by topic outline that was created for us. So don't shoot the mess. Don't shoot the messenger.
Let's go to Shirley.
Does that help, Derek? Are you still like, I don't want to make light of your?
No, that's fine. Thank
Okay,
you.
I just wanted you to understand, like, we're not like just making this up off the top of our heads, like.
Right.
So if you're super confused, I say, ask the source.
Yeah.
Well, I'm super confused, and that doesn't change anything because I'm super confused day to day. So.
Well, yeah, we love you. We love you, super confused, Derek. Shirley, did you have something you wanted to add, honey?
I do. I mean, this, what I read is that Penuel feels how we feel, that there is compassion and empathy in the letter. It reminds me of a time when I was at my lowest and very, very, very ill. And I had the realization that there is, for me, there is not a God that is a puppet master that pulls string and does magic. What that means to me is that there is a spiritual world that when I'm crying and in pain, they lay with me and cry with me. And this is what I hear in this letter is that Penuel is sorry we are going through a rough time.
Thank you, Shirley. That's lovely.
She has more heart than I do.
Thank you for
I
your
mean, here I am.
answer.
Thanks for sharing. Like, come
Yeah.
on. Tell us something we don't know.
Come on, Penuel.
Okay, I'm going straight to hell. I know it.
No, you.
Well, I'm right in between Candace and Cheryl. I would say I understand, Penuel, that, or I see that you understand our feelings and how we're going. Um, uh, but then I would say, well, tell us more. And then I would think a little bit more and I said, oh, you want us to think a little bit more about this. And we were talking about a scientific mind. And one of the things that I may be wrong, but one of the things that I've seen since 9/11 till here is that sometimes we tend to be a little bit egoistic and think about ourselves and not care about everybody else. But it's when we go through turmoil or hardship that as people, we tend to unite and try to help each other. And for example, if we would have not gone through the pandemic 2 years ago, we would have not been talking here and meeting each other and helping each other emotionally. So probably it's like, Peño, yeah, tell me more. And then I would say, okay, I see that you understand how I feel and you want me to think a little bit more about this and realize, hey, I'm not alone. I'm not a rock. I need other people and I need to help others and be available to help others.
This is kind of like the text we were talking about earlier. Like, I wish Penuel were here so we could say, this is what we're hearing, Penuel.
Yes,
Is this what you mean? Like,
Right.
what's more here? We need to hear tone, see body language, more. We need to be able to engage with you.
Yeah.
Well, and I want to kind of circle back at it. Derek's got a very valuable, valid question. Who the hell is Penuel anyway? Like, apparently Penuel and Rabbi have a relationship. That's fine. But this is the first time Penuel has ever written to us as a community. So, I mean, I think it's fair for like a reaction or a response to be, okay, Penuel, I don't know, like, just like you just said, Hugh, who are you? Why are you talking to us? Why should we listen? That kind of, so I appreciate all the feedback. It's been great.
What are the words that Penuel has said, and what are the spaces between the words? What's being said in between as well? I'm going to. We've got 5 minutes left, so I'm sorry. I'm going to have to stop this particular conversation because I'd like for us to just take a moment or two in the last few minutes that we have. We've covered a lot of interesting topics today, under the big umbrella of how we communicate, the ways we communicate, what works for us, what doesn't work for us, what are the operational definitions people use with a specific word, and how might that be different than the way we use it? There's been lots of stuff to take away. I would like to ask you the question in the last few minutes, what's one takeaway? We're doing the 40-minute check-in at 55 minutes into the service. But before I invite you to share, I would like for you just to sit in silence for a moment and think about what's a takeaway. Just sit, and then I'll invite you to share in just a few moments. Just think first, feel first. What's a takeaway for you from today's conversation? Another way of articulating that would be, what do you want to do for homework this week? Or what would you like to work on? Or I could use any ways of asking the same question, but I hope you know what it is. So Chad and Lisa, what are you thinking?
Question what you have heard. Is that the intent of what you meant?
Thank you. That's a big one for me too. Need to work on that.
Yeah. Same here.
What are some takeaways for others?
There's a great one in the chat. The reminder of the value of active listening was very helpful. I'll try to hold on to that as I carry on with my week.
Thank you for whoever contributed that to the chat. Thanks, Joe, for watching the chat so well. I am so grateful to you for watching that chat so well. I can't do two things at once, so I'm grateful that this is a shared experience. I see Ray's hand is up.
Well, the thing for me is not only, did I hear what you said, right? But how is what you said and how I understood it colored by my life experiences?
Yeah.
Thank you, Ray. And Emily, I saw your hand up, and then we're going to get to Anne after Emily.
It wasn't really up. However, what I'm taking away is what an interesting group this is and so many different perspectives.
Yeah.
I thank you.
Lots and lots of gratitude, huh?
Yeah.
Anne, what would you like to share?
Hugh, you used the word, like you mentioned, like the space between, like that gap, and that's something that I need to remember, that there is always a gap between what is said and what I'm hearing. And so I shouldn't react immediately to it. I need to kind of explore what is really in that space.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, if I had Rabbi Brian's stick figures here, I'd pull them out, because someone says something and we respond to it, right? And if we don't have that space, then that means we're far more likely to misinterpret. But if we leave a little bit of space, notice the emotional response, and then move to the next question, I think it's more likely that good communication will happen. Thank you, Anne, for that. Thank you. I see, is that Rita's hand I see up at the bottom? Thank you, Rita. Go ahead.
Just what really struck me is, among a lot of things, I guess, but is how many ways there are to interpret what somebody is saying, other than just the words. I mean, and even the words, you need a comma and you've got a different sentence, but body language and facial expression and tone, especially tone, all start pointing one in a certain direction that may or may not be accurate. It's especially with text messages, you know, as a result of text messages and emails, and this even is why I had to create this. Because jokes don't, my jokes don't always sound like jokes to people in certain situations. And so I have to tell you, no, that was a joke. It just, communication is not as easy as one would think.
Thank you, Rita. It is the hour. I am filled with gratitude I'm filled with gratitude to Brian, who shaped the service today. I'm grateful for Shirley and Alex and Joe and Maria, everybody else who participated and who contributed. Thank you.
And thank you, Hugh.
Thank you, Hugh.
Thank you.
So I'm going to hand it off to those who are responsible for opening up the the rooms.